Today's video is the second installment in just looking at old photos where I don't have any big ideas or big agendas to push or anything like that. I just want to look at some old photos. I think that right now in history, we have more access than ever before to historical videos and photos because things are being digitized and people put them online. And I'm not saying that we can find everything that there isn't stuff out there that people just keep in private collections and will never see the light of day. But it is amazing what's out there, and it seems like just what it reminds me of are all the small time museums out there. Like you would never see those things unless you actually went and visited, and there is all sorts of cool things. Historical houses out there that they put up various photos of what the town used to look like, or all of this stuff is really fascinating. So uh, I guess we should give thanks to people that put this stuff online to share with everybody. And these photos for today are from John Day, mostly, not all. But that was my starting point for research. Kind of what I guess what today's video is kind of like how should we go find these old these old photos, in my opinion. When you just Google search like John Day historical stuff, you're going to get very surface level stuff. You might find some cool images, but what I think will lead to the coolest unseen images are clicking around and then finding photo archives and then going through picture by picture, or maybe once you find those cool photo archives, search for certain topics that you want. So let me go through the images. I just want to show some cool images today. And John Day, I picked this because I've been here in Oregon. I've driven there. I don't live near there, but the geology, whatever you want to call it, what people today would call geology is incredible out there. So many flat, strange, and they have the same look as Devil's Tower. What they tell you is like magma cooling in a certain. I think most people can tell that that's a bunch of BS. Maybe this is where giant trees were in this area. I know in Southern Oregon there's uh, something that looks like a massive petrified chopped down tree stump. This area too, full of it. But to me, driving around this area, it seems like there's really old ancient, old ancient. There's really ancient walls, I think. And maybe there were just huge walled cities around here, and this is what's left of them. I don't know. It does look like I see what people get at with the tree thing, and that is all over this area. It's all over Oregon, really. You'll notice it if you've lived in Oregon or you visit and you're looking around and paying attention. You'll notice those crazy huge octagonal things are found all over Oregon. People will decorate their garden with it. A Target will just have them out front because I imagine when they're doing the excavation, they dig these things up all over the place, and it's easier to just they make them upright a lot of times and just leave them as decoration because I think that's easier than like moving these things, and they're all over Oregon. These are some cool old photos. Learning the different cars would be cool to be able to date these images. Some of these images are really old, and then look at the quality. That's always really surprising. Like, is that a Model T? But this is a high quality image, a lot of detail. Orange, you'll notice a lot of unnecessary bright orange, and that this website was clearly themed with that bright orange. And it used to be a really common practice to draw on the negative the information about it. They're very good about documenting things. What a pretty picture, though. I mean, that's just a beautiful picture. Orange striking it rich in Canyon City. So, while I believe in panning for gold and all that, I think that the gold rush is covering up the fact that they were going to areas that hadn't been reestablished yet. And these areas would have a bunch of gold lying around, maybe in form of jewelry that's left over from the last historical reset, Or maybe the tech, they had it on the buildings. They still had gold on the roofs, and maybe gold wire. I don't know, technology. I don't know exactly, but I think that's what the gold rush was. Like, the gold rush in San Francisco was probably looting that city and getting all the gold. And if they take a bunch of gold and melt it down and then they say, I got this out of the river, who's to say? Some cool industry photo. Are they shearing sheep? Is that what's going on? Gold. So I do think that's an interesting topic. So many of these places have alleged gold rushes, and I think the gold rush is rush in, loot the city for all the gold you can, and start telling everybody that you built this stuff. $26 million in gold. Now we're getting into, this is, I guess, the main informative part of this video. If you yourself are interested in finding old historical videos, or I keep saying that, photos, look for places like this. I don't know if I have the website yet, but see all how they give you the information on it. The Oregon Historical Society Library. I'll find the website in a second specifically, but you're looking for stuff like this where they have the information of what the photo is. It's archived. You'll find groups of images. It'll be like, oh, this lot is like 120 images. I think that's where the gold is when it comes to these old photos. They instantly start putting up the power lines, because I think that the power lines themselves are what generate the electricity, or collect it rather. I think power lines passively collect electricity, and that's what they do. Each reset, they get those power lines set up as fast as possible, and there's so many of them in the beginning. This is a cool ghost town looking image. Those trees are cool, but are they like painted in? This almost looks like a painted in background. Are those real trees, or is that painted in? That looks sketchy to me. Doesn't that look like a painting? The trees? So I don't know about that. Maybe they didn't want you to see what was back there, but this one has odd vibes. And the orange dot in the slideshow. I'm going out on a limb here and saying that those trees are fake. No pun intended. Oregon is really big for logging. It's pretty much the main industry here, I would guess. A river scene between the 30s and 70s, I guess. That's a pretty big time frame difference. This was a cool image. Are they doing the magic wand hand back then? I would call that a magic wand hand. Just a cool image. I mean, a little scary. Oregon is a really, really pretty place. I think it's someplace special. I think Oregon really is special for multiple reasons. Oregon is the 33rd state, and OR equals 33. You know, when you shorten every state has like a 2-letter way to represent the state, like California CA. Oregon is OR. That's 33. OR is gold in French. So there is something special about Oregon. These cars were super cool. Basement store. Basement. All of these places have basements. The old world. Downtown. Downtown is talking about down, under the ground, the old world that is sunk down, that we're living on top of, standing on the shoulders of giants. Often the old first floor is often now the basement. And what I was noticing here, well, the power lines, I'm usually trying to look for those in images. You'll see that they're all up all over the place right away, right in the beginning. Not that this is obviously looking at the cars, not in the beginning, but it's just something I notice now. And the skies. That was one thing. When I was going through these images, I was like, you don't see any chemtrails in the sky. And just noticing what real clouds used to look like. The clouds even look farther away than they do now. I've made a video in the past talking about the sky is falling, the firmament is coming down. And maybe it is, because the Bible says that New Jerusalem comes down from heaven. And anyways, people these days, crazy vertigo. Vertigo is so common these days, and even myself, like, I feel it in my head when the weather's changing, and I don't ever remember it being like that. Man, this turned into a ramble video, but that's fine. Look at this. This is cool. I think that this is kind of what I don't watch a lot of channels that talk about melted bricks and stuff like that, but I think John Day is a pretty good candidate for maybe these used to be, maybe these were cities like thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's been reduced to this. And through multiple extreme cataclysms, it really does look like that. And this area, Washington, is very well known for like volcanic activity, and maybe that's left over from Sodom and Gomorrah type events. Who knows? Beautiful handwriting. Really, really nice handwriting. So this is where I found all of these things, these later images. The Oregon Historical Society, and you could do a search. I searched for I think John Day, but I don't know. I was clicking around. I have some cool images at the end of this video that were from one of these collections. But this is what I was talking about. I think this is probably a good way to find really cool old images. Find historical societies or other archive websites that you could search for things, and you get these lots, like a collection, lot 1275, portrait, the Gilliam or portrait studio and camera shop negatives, box 1, and then go through these. I think there's probably a lot of cool stuff out there that with eyes to see you could get a lot from it. This is cool. They called this a lodge. Group posing in front of Lucas Lodge in the 30s or 70s. People who knew things about trees would be kind of interesting if they knew, like, oh, that tree is like 30 years old or something. And if they could figure out, like, wait, where are the really old trees, I think is an interesting concept. Another thing too, I like the American chestnut tree interests me. It's similar to the bison. Like, did they get rid of these things as a sort of historical, that we're changing the narrative, or did they just do that to kill off all the natives? We're just going to kill all their food sources off. I don't know. Odell is a cool place. Got the mountain in the background. These are really cool. So I'm going to end with this, because this was like, at this point I was looking around, searching on that Historical Society website, and I came upon one lot of images that was just so interesting. So I'm going to show these. They're from the Portland General Electric Company, are these images. And I feel like you could say a lot about this. It's really interesting. Where is this today? Just showing the backwards evolution. Back in the day, any old worker is going to have a portfolio on them with images and nice portrait. I mean, I guess you kind of do this with school yearbooks, but not like this, not like a nice bio. And anyways, something interesting about this. This guy's hiding his hand behind the back and has hips and dainty little shoulders. So transvestigation has always gone back. Look, long legs, hips, straight on hips, and the daintiest little shoulders I've ever seen. This has been going on a long time, 1895. So right around hips for days on these martens. Legs, all legs, all hips. Transvestigation is not new at all. So I think that I know for a fact that people are interested in like old-timey transvestigation and pointing out that free martins and inverted skeletons have always been around. Bartholomew. This is a cool image. So crisp. Look at the beautiful quality of this 1800s image. It looks really nice. John Cox, J.G. Mann, Dick Gregory. These sound like joke names. These sound like joke names. John Cox, J.G. Mann, and Dick Gregory are in the crowd. The entire day force of cable. This is about the cable cars, which is super cool. Is that guy really dirty in the white suit? What is going on? Some tough dudes. This was titled The 20-Year Men. This again, I mean, it looks like it's a good photograph. I don't know, when I zoom in, it's obviously getting kind of blurry, but I mean, it looks like a pretty good photograph. I wonder how crisp these are in real life versus on my cell phone. Nice portrait. Were they dead? Were they alive? That's actually an interesting thing that I've seen some videos on YouTube with huge view counts that are talking about the whole old-timey tradition of posing dead people. And I think that that does fit into this, and falsifying history and making up people and the way that Masons like to operate. Date unknown. Cool old image. Looking like a Colonel Sanders type in the front. I should have tried to get a better quality of this one. There's some interesting looking dudes. Like, what is that? Stick? Someone holding a big stick or something? I don't know. These were really cool. And this is like, where does this still exist? Where, I think this is the Portland cable car guys. Where does it exist? Like the trash man was maybe a bad idea. I don't know. Where do you go where you get nice studio portraits of all of your workers? And I don't think that really exists anymore. Every one of your workers goes and gets a nice picture. I mean, what just came to my mind is like, so here's how this works today. This works today when you go to Costco and you see the wall of, I've been working here 25 years, and it's like a candid photo of them at their job, doing their job. Like the manager came up and snapped a photo with their camera just to go make the plaque. Oh, you've been working here 25 years. That's how today works. You give away your life for 25 years, and a company is going to do some cheesy plaque with a photo they just took 5 seconds ago on their iPhone. As in contrast to the formality and all of this of this time period. It's just so interesting that they would all get dressed up in their suit to take a picture, and they're just like a cable car boy. Employee portraits. These two almost look like the same guy. Just down here, he's bugging his eyes out and styled his mustache differently. It almost looks like the same person. So this was young man next to foliage. You can see these were all just collect in the same collection, and this guy's got the eunuch body. That is the body of a eunuch. Guess who it is? Somebody from Portland. Did they... What does that say? Something ago and today. The nose looks different. Like they tried to make the nose look smaller in the other one. Charles Cooper. Someone important. Looks uncomfortable. That many people. So at the end, there were some really cool images of, yeah, telephone people. Or, I don't know why in my mind these are telephone poles. But electricity poles. And look how much. Look, wires everywhere, layer after layer of them. I think that this is how they passively collected electricity for the most part. And nowadays they can get a little bit more high tech with it, and you can just collect it with giant buildings and like I think the Twin Towers probably collected electricity, stuff like that. I do believe in things like hydro and stuff like that, but I do think that one of the biggest generators of electricity is just through these power lines. And nowadays, so I guess to contrast it, now they have the really big power lines out in the middle of nowhere running for miles and miles and up in the hills and down, and two sets of these giant wires way out there in the middle of nowhere. Whereas in times past, it seems like instead of doing that, they just double, triple, quadruple up on the wires around town, which makes sense. So that's how you would you would start out generating it exactly where you are. So that's why I think they weren't taking these out for miles and miles and miles and up the hill and down because they were staying close to the cities. So I think that's why the wires were so out of control in the beginning, because they're just like quadrupling up on their passive generation instead of building giant wires out in the middle of nowhere. They weren't out to the middle of nowhere yet. They were still trying to get the cities back and running. See kind of a ghost image there of a car, Model T or something. Some sort of Statue of Liberty reference. And this was the end. I don't know if it was the end actually. Maybe towards the end of the collection of images were a ton of images of this storm in Portland. Took all the power down, and I guess that makes sense. This was a collection of images from the power company, so they had a lot of images of the storm and the damage it did. And here's just a different one. 1916 question mark. Looking clean. Looking clean and civilized compared to today. What a mess. This was after a storm. You can see all the frozen wires. We had an ice storm, was it last year? I mean, like this very past winter. I don't remember if it was this year or last year on the calendar, but there was a big ice storm, and it really can screw things up around here. We don't get a ton of snow, but we do get off and on winter weather in Oregon. And that is it. Just kind of a chill, looking at some old photos, showing you where I think it is good to look for these old photos in these archives if you can find them, where people have just uploaded various lots and collections. I think that there's probably some cool stuff out there. And hope you enjoyed my rambles and the old photos. God bless everyone.